Love yourself for all you have been, all you are, and all you will become. Anonymous. Hi, my name is Amber McCarn, and this is my personal speech. Today I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I'll tell you about who I am as a person, where I am now, and where I hope to be in the future. When I tell you about who I am as a person, I'll tell you a little bit about my background and my family. When I tell you about where I am now, I'll tell you about my current job, my education, and my interests. When I tell you about where I hope to be in the future, I'll tell you about my career plans, where I'd like to live, and what I'd like to do. So first, let's start with who I am as a person. This is a picture of my big family, and without each and every person in that picture, I wouldn't be where I am today. First, there's my mom, and then there's my dad. They were divorced when I was about 3. My dad was remarried and divorced again by the time I was 13. My mom remarried my stepdad, Tim. Because of that, I have 4 sisters, Catherine, Lacey, Helen, and Kathleen, and 2 brothers, Lawson and Timothy. Another important thing that you should know about me is that I'm married. That's my husband, Connor. These are our 2 dogs, Winston, who is a mix between a Shih Tzu and a Chihuahua, and Bear, who is a blue heeler. And then there's Bruce, my Mississippi mud turtle. Now that I've told you a little bit about who I am as a person, I'll tell you about where I am now. So first, we should probably start with my job. I am a nanny to the most adorable 2-month-old you have ever seen. On days that I'm not at school, I spend my days with this little guy. Next, I'll tell you about my education. I attended 11 elementary schools. I know that sounds like a lot, but when your mom is a single parent, it's easy to move to the places that offer the best jobs. I went to Baker Middle School and Skidmore-Tynan High School. Now I'm an education major at Texas A&M University, Corpus Christi, with a concentration in 4th through 8th grade mathematics. Now I'll tell you a little bit about my interests. First, there's math. The great thing about math is there's always an answer. If I get something wrong on a math problem, I can take it to my teacher and ask my teacher what I did wrong, and they'll be able to point precisely to my mistake, and I can fix it and go on about my day. If I go to an English teacher and ask them what's wrong with my paper, the answer might be, well, I didn't really like your wording here. So I like math because it's a little more discreet. Then there's reading. Reading is my safe place. It's where I go to get away from stress and problems that I'm having in my life. If I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, I just go and pick a good book and I escape. Now I'll tell you about where I hope to be in the future. First, there's my career plans. I hope to teach junior high math or science because I believe that junior high is the most important time for math and science. That's where you learn the fundamentals of all of the math and science that you'll use for the rest of your life. I also hope to coach basketball or volleyball or both because I loved those sports in high school. Next, I'll tell you about where I'd like to live. This is something that my husband and I have been talking about a lot lately. The first thing that we've agreed on is that we'd like to live in Alaska. Not forever, I promise, but we want to live there for a little while to get a sense of someone else's culture, but still feel close enough to home. But both of our hearts are in Texas, so we'll probably end up living in Texas for the rest of our lives. Now I'll tell you about what I'd like to do. I'd like to raise a family. I'd also like to be an influence in many students' lives. I really hope that I can help students like my teachers helped me. And I'd love to travel. Places like Italy and Greece and Costa Rica, Brazil, places with a lot of culture. Now, today I've told you a little bit about who I am as a person. I told you about my background and I told you about my family. Then I told you about where I am now. I told you about my job. I told you about my education, and I told you about my interests. Finally, I told you about where I hope to be in the future. I told you about my future career goals, where I'd like to be, and what I'd like to do. So, today I told you about myself and my experiences. As I said in the beginning, I think it's so important to love yourself and love your experiences. Now, it might have sounded a little funny, but as Neil Gaiman says, the one thing you have that nobody else has is you. Your voice, your mind, your story, and your vision. So write and draw and build and play and dance and live as only you can.